We value your time. We have respect to time. We value your time. We have respect to time.
Jairam sir. The distinguished speaker, Dr. M. Pallam Raju sir, Chief Executive of Medical Sciences, Srinivasa Jairam sir. The distinguished speaker, Dr. M. Pallam The event is being live streamed on YouTube. To be socially responsible and sensitive to the needs of the society is the order of the day. Management education institutes have a great role to play here as they are sculptors of future leaders. Management education is no more limited to serving the corporate sector only. It has become all-pervasive. It has a critical role to play as an agent or as a powerful instrument of social change and social development. Management education is seen as a major vector in society, preparing the way for development in tune with the drastic changes that are happening across the globe, socially, economically, politically, environmentally, technologically, financially, and demographically. Management education today has to orient to promoting values of creativity, creative thinking, artificial intelligence, risk-taking and startup, venturing, machine learning, analytics, and any which way required to make the society and every element of the society dynamic and to be able to handle unforeseen situations like the COVID-19 pandemic that we all went through in the last 1.5 years and still facing its consequences. To share more insights on the issue and tell us how this can be achieved, we have here with us none other than Dr. Pallam Raju, sir, the Honorable Ex-Minister of the HRD, Government of India. He is also an Executive Advisory Board member of the GEF. Certainly, we couldn't have had somebody better. May I request the Chief Executive Sir of Engineering and General Sciences, Shri Ramprasad Sir, to share a few words on the occasion and present the welcome address.
Good afternoon to all of you. Esteemed Dr. M. Pallam Raju, our Honorable Chairman, Dr. M. R. Jairam, Chief Executive, GEF Medical, Shri Srinivas Murthy, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Ruvas, Professor K. Raina, Dr. Asra, is the Quality Assurance Cell, all the heads of the departments, deans, pro-vice chancellors, members of the faculty and friends. We are very fortunate that an executive advisory board has been constituted, established, and we have an education is a person of eminence and former Human Resource Development Minister of Government of India on the board. Along with him are other stalwarts like Dr. J. N. Reddy, Belur Prabhakar and others. This has actually added prestige to us. It has enhanced our standing. On the 25th, we had a session, second session of the meeting of this advisory board. We had extended sessions of stimulating and enlivening interaction on many dimensions and aspects of higher education in the backdrop of national education policy and also of COVID and all that, we know it. And we have had also many institution-specific issues discussed threadbare. One of the important themes that was flagged and discussed in that meeting was about the management education. I would go to the extent of saying that during the discussion, what emerged was like there has to be some kind of reimagining of management science. That may be a very big word, but in terms of breadth and depth, but still an institution like ours can initiate such a good this thing, because we have 4 institutions offering, three institutions are offering MBA. One autonomous institution is offering MBA. All these institutions have grown over a period of time. These institutions have their own unique, achievements and characters and their own thing. So one of the health needs has been that we should bring synergy between these institutions, because we are in the same business, giving management, science management education. So this was discussed, and what was flagged was to put that word cooperation, that is both cooperation and competition, in such a way that one doesn't dent the other. And it should also not come in the way of the independent identity of the institution. So the institution should coexist, grow together, and blossom together. That is the thing. So all this has been discussed. And today, what is happening? This distinguished lecture by Dr. Pallam Raju is very much timely. This was very much required. Therefore, once again, I thank Dr. Pallam Raju for having agreed to give this distinguished lecture. Thank you very much, sir. Our Honorable Chairman, Dr. M.R. Jayaram, as we all know, has a lot of concerns. He is concerned about taking our institutions to that global level, global standards. With that concern, he has established this executive advisory body. So therefore, I extend a warm welcome to him. And one important issue we should all bear in mind is that all the issues we are going to place on the table, we should ourselves do a lot of work. We should know what we want, and a lot of work should take place in our own institutions. And then the clarity of thought should be there. That should be placed before that executive body, so that they can intervene and help us. This is an extremely important aspect we all should, work about. And we have our chief executive from medical. He has also had a lot of concerns. Many times he used to, mention that sometimes many of these works like, some studies and other things, management related, we outsource. Why not we do ourselves? We have the competence. So we have been discussing this. So we have to, develop that competence, and he is with us today. I extend a warm welcome to you, sir. And we have Vice Chancellor to us. I extend a warm welcome to you. Welcome to Dr. Raja, the registrars, provost chancellors, heads of the department, distinguished faculty and friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. May I request Dr. Jayaram, sir, to share a few words and bless the occasion.
Summoning myself to the divine, Dr. M. Mangapati Pallam Raju ji, Mr. M.R. Murthy ji, Dr. Ram Prasad, Dr. Raina ji, the distinguished people in this august house, and their students. The philosophy of our institution, Vijnanam, Jnanam, Vijnanam, Bhakti, Bhakti Sahitam. I think the holistic approach to the knowledge, that has been the our philosophy of our institution. For developing this philosophy, we thought that we wanted to have eminent people coming in and share their thoughts with us, share their moments of knowledge with us, so that we can also take those knowledge and grow forward, having this philosophy. Mr. Pallam Raju is not a new person to us. This comes from a very, very great line, the lineage. I have known his father, though I was very young at that time. He had already been the member of parliament for about 15 years. I was very close to Jawaharlal Nehru, the first prime minister of this country. And he also was made the chairman of the Electronic Commission. For the first time in the history of this country, a commission was set up, independent commission was set up, and he led that just on this commission. And it was a yeoman service. And what you are seeing today, especially the electronics and the information technology, the growth of information technology, I think has played a great part in that knowledge base. Mr. Pallam Raju, after him, he became a member of parliament. He also was there for about 10 to 15 years, I think 3 terms. And he was a minister for the defense production. Very important, highly respected, and a man who should have great knowledge about what is happening in this world. Only then can become something of defense. So he was given that charge, and later on he became the Minister for Human Resources. This is very vast. And that was the time when I think after him the new education policy started. And what we are seeing today is that new education policy has come into being. Now we are looking at the new education policy for the schools. Now we have done it for higher education. Now we are setting our pathway for the lower education or the basic education up to the 12th standard. So education has become the central part of our development of this country. And what you're going to hear from him is going to be very important to all of you. What I would say, my philosophy has been very, I'm very passionate about the holistic education. And I always draw my inspiration from our knowledge base, which has come out from our fathers and forefathers. Thousands of years knowledge base. They have never condemned the Vijnana. Vijnana is science. Jnana is the holistic approach to knowledge. The only thing that they said is that science, this knowledge of knowledge and science, you can achieve it provided you surrender yourself and have the bhakti where you are able to assimilate that knowledge for the betterment of mankind. That is the knowledge that our seers from thousands and thousands of years they have given to us. And this is exactly what we in the modern terminology have been talking about. We are talking about economics, the wealth of the nation. And thousands of years back, it was always said that the king has to be very rich. There should not be any beggar. Which is the best country, the best, the king. The king where the wealth was in abundance, where there was no poverty, where everybody was happy with whatever that they had, that happiness was overwhelming. Only then that country was good. So this is the greatest philosophy. Now the modern man is trying to imitate that. Only thing difference between then and now is our policy, our the modern industry is going through. What is our philosophy of modern industry? Now I'll give you one small example. Take a Bata company, you take one shoes. Now in the olden days, they were preparing their shoes for the people whom they wanted. The Mochi was there in every village. He would prepare one shoes for the people who wanted, or chappals or whatever that is. But today we have a Bata company which prepares hundreds, thousands and lakhs of shoes and giving it to everybody. That is the modern knowledge. The modern knowledge is creation of in multiples, giving it to everybody. In the olden days, they were creating, the Mochi was creating a specialized, the chappal or the shoes for a person which you could be proud of, saying that this is the one thing that I have and nobody else has got. And this also, you take a carpets. Carpet in our house was handmade, and which is said, you have the best in the country, or nowhere else you have. This is made for you. But today we have thousands and lakhs of. So the question is today the availability of making this industry in multiples of lakhs and doing that is the new economic theory that we have got after industrialization. So there's nothing much difference about it. At that time we had a very limited scope, but they wanted to do it perfection to every extent. Nobody could have gone in perfection. With the modern age, we don't have the perfection, but we have in numbers. We create it in numbers. We want to see that everybody gets it. Everybody has it. That is the theory of the modern economic system. That's right. Okay, we have changed that, and you see, look at the population about 1,000 years back. You didn't require such a big industry, multiplying lakhs and lakhs, because there was not much of the population. What the population was about, say, 100 crores, or even about 30 to 40 crores throughout the world. Today, our country itself has got 130 crores of people. So, during that time, you had requirement of that population. Today, the population has grown beyond the last 100 years. It has almost 10 times triple of what population was there about 1,000 years back. So today the need is different. So we are tackling to those needs. But today the important lecture that you're going to hear is after COVID or after the pandemic, what? Now that is the very biggest question that all of you are going to see. Pandemic has taught us many things. It has taught us the way we have to think. I think we have to change. Every country, every human being has been affected. Just in the afternoon, I was just talking to our people at come because they wanted to invite me for that Rajyotsava award. from my village. And I just asked them how many people passed away during this 5 to 6 months time. They said, sir, more than 350 to 400 people have passed away, which we have got counted, but others we don't know. It is unimaginable. Every house has been affected by it. This is a fact, and this happened throughout the world. We have never given respect to see whoever dies, we thought we should give them respect, but who bothered about it? Nobody even went, and even if our own parents have gone, nobody went to the burial ground to say that we do our rituals. Nobody came there. What a change that has taken place. So this change has brought about how we have to now go forward. It may be that, yes, you have reached a stage, now the whole world is looking at the nature. Has nature, we have destroyed nature beyond one level? Can we bring back nature? Can we bring back the greatness of nature, that where it protects us? So these are the issues. Or can we at least stop wherever it is? Can we harness the climate change for our own humanity's good of humanity? So this is a new thinking that has developed today. So you are in that change. The modern management system now has to get into this, in the system where how do the society live without disturbing nature, go along with nature, and make man more happy. That's the philosophy. So this change, and the management people are the people who are going to make these changes happen. Is the engineer who makes a change, and the management man who goes and sells it. He makes it popular. So you are a very, very important person in this. There is a marketing is the most important. If there is no marketing, there is nothing there. There is nothing for you to produce. You may have the best of everything, but if there is no marketing, then there is nothing for you to sell because there is nobody to take it. So therefore, you as a marketing, taking the philosophy of marketing, you have to take this and try to educate people. Try to bring this new thinking and new way of the way we look life, look at nature, look at the way we look at the land and all the wealth of this wonderful what is God has given us, this wealth of all that thing which is hidden in this earth. So how do we use it to the betterment of mankind without disturbing nature? That's the philosophy. So with this, in this beautiful change of world order, Pallam Raju is with his wisdom. Now, these are the people who I think you have to see, because they have seen the people, they know what it is, they know how the mankind has to think. So he has a very broad views. He has been the member of parliament, he has been to America, he has been to US, he has taken his degrees from there. So he has exposure of all over the world. So I think, sir, I have also come to listen to you. Let me be very frank. I think all of us have to learn this change. It's more important as a chairman of this institution, because I have to learn and guide the people where you have to go. If I don't learn from all of you, I don't think I will do justice. This is my honest opinion, which I am sharing with all of you. Therefore, I have come here with all to learn from your deep insights to society. I don't have that deep insight to society as you have. So we are looking to you. Please take this platform and give us that wisdom. Thank you.
Sir, I have no words to express for you being so kind enough to come and share those wonderful insights, taking us back to the deep-rooted, rich history of the knowledge base that our country has, and making us understand the connect between Jnana, Vijnana, and Bhakti, which is the philosophy of this institution, and giving a holistic view of the situation that the humankind is going through at this point of time, and also for all the kind of humility, humbleness that you have expressed. Thank you very much, sir, once again on behalf of all the audience here. May I now request Dr. Manasa Nagabhushanam, Director, Administration, Research and Academics, RIM, to introduce the distinguished speaker to the audience. Respected Chairman, sir, distinguished speaker of today, Dr. Pallam Raju, and the Chief Executive of GEF Medical, Srinivas Murthy, sir, Chief Executive of Engineering and General Sciences, Ram Prasad, sir, Professor K.K. Raina, who's the Vice Chancellor, Razdan, sir, who's here, and Sai Baba, sir, and all other Pro-Vice Chancellors, heads of departments, and faculty and dear students. So I'll be presenting a very interesting profile of an outstanding personality who is with us here today, Dr. Pallam Raju. He started his career as an electronics engineer working in the IT department in the US, but his life took a major twist and he got into politics, and he has held two important portfolios in the Union Ministry. One is being the Minister of Human Resource Development and being the Minister of Defense, Minister of State. Pallam Raju has served as a Cabinet Minister of Human Resource Development in the Council of Minister of Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, and he had a vast responsibility of policy formulation in the area of education, right from school education to higher education. In his period, during when he was the HRD minister, the major milestones were the Rashtriya Uchatar Shiksha Abhiyan, now we all know it as RUSA, which was set on the lines of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan and RMSE. RUSA was set up to raise the levels of higher education and provide funds to universities to achieve excellence. He introduced the direct benefit transfer scheme, through which fellowships and scholarships were given to over 1 lakh students by transferring the corresponding amounts directly to their bank accounts. So, as the Minister of State in the Ministry of Defense, Government of India, between January 2006 and October 2012, he was one of the longest serving ministers in the defense portfolio. He led important delegations to many countries, and he was an active participant in the international fora like the Shangri-La Dialogue at Singapore, and he has been proactive in strengthening the defense industrial base in India and has been the most visible face articulating the defense offsets policy. Dr. Pallam Raju served as the chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Information Technology also during August 2004 to January 2006. His notable contribution as the chairman of this prominent committee has been the significant report submitted to Parliament on the utilization of the spectrum, and also his initiative and advocacy towards India having its semiconductor fab a critical requirement for India. So, Dr. Pallam Raju contributes to the society in all ways possible. Basically, he has got his education in electronics and communications from Andhra University, and he has an MBA from Temple University, Philadelphia, USA. So he has received a number of honors and recognitions. The Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers India conferred its highest honor, the Honorary Fellow, in July 2013. He was awarded an honorary doctorate by Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, Hyderabad, India in 2007. Temple University, Philadelphia, USA honored its alumni M.M. Pallam Raju by conferring an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters in 2013. Pallam Raju is also an author. He has authored a book, A Contribution in Time, India's Electronics Revolution, a biographical book about his father, Dr. M.S. Sanjeevi Rao, India's first electronics minister, regarding his electronics growth story. So Dr. Pallam Raju, as a college student, he was a very active, all-rounder, an outstanding student. He was an NCC cadet, he was a sportsman, and he has participated in several athletic and football tournaments in the country. He is now the Executive Advisory Board member of the Gokula Education Foundation. We are really privileged to be interacting with such an exemplary personality who has a 360-degree view of life, the nation, education, and the society. And he is here on behalf of all of us. A warm welcome to Dr. Pallam Raju. Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am, for that wonderful introduction. May I request our chairman, sir, Dr. Jairam, sir, to present a floral bouquet to the distinguished guest, Dr. M. Pallam Raju, sir, as a token of welcome. I request Professor Jeevita to hand over the bouquet. Thank you, sir. And now is the much awaited part of the occasion. We will have the distinguished lecture on need for making management education impactful to society in the backdrop of the pandemic by Shri Pallam Raju, sir. Sir, over to you.
Thank you for that generous introduction by you and by the Honorable Chairman. I think the length of the introduction certainly puts performance pressure. And I'm certainly suffering from stage anxiety. Give a speech. I think it's almost 4 and you'd rather be settling back home or feeling a little sleepy after lunch and, in between tea. But thank you for the privilege and thank you for all your coming here to listen to me. And since the Executive Advisory Board has been spoken about, I would like to, in front of all of you, thank again Honorable Chairman Jairam Garu and also Srinivas Murthy Garu for giving me the opportunity amongst luminaries like Dr. J. Reddy and Dr. Vedur Prabhakar. I think it's an honor to be with them and also to hear last couple of days and to sense their intentions. And I think the unanimous conclusion all of us have come to is that the Ramaiah group of institutions is a reflection of our chairman. Tall, dignified, full of substance and very earnest, and at the same time very low-key. So there's so much good happening in all these institutions. We felt that it's time we spoke about ourselves, and there has to be a communication strategy how we roll out what we are all about. I think we can feel very proud about the great work that the medical institutions in this campus have done during the pandemic. A couple of days ago, I think we crossed 100,000 vaccinations. And, we've done, innumerable, treated innumerable patients during the 2 phases of the pandemic. I think that's something that is worth talking about, and we can certainly feel about the good thing that's happening in institutions. And without any loss of lives of those serving the patients. I think that's an incredible achievement. There's only one example of the good work that's happening in institutions. And earlier today, I had the pleasure of interacting with the business school of management. And I felt that some of the issues that we discussed in the executive board could definitely be effectively addressed by the in-house talent that we had. Anyway, I'm being called to make a speech, and normally my tendency, given my political leanings, is to get on the stage and start criticizing the government. That would have been my natural tendency. And I was actually thinking about talking extempore for the last few days, but then something happened to me last night. I realized, I'm speaking before a lot of impressionable students, and I have to weigh every word that I say, and I have to speak more responsibly than on a political platform. So what I've chosen to do is to put my thoughts into words, which I've written it down, and I felt that is a much more appropriate way of telling you what is on my mind, because we have a lot of challenges before us. I think the younger generation face so much pressure. I know that you, not only the academic pressures, I think you live in a different world where the challenges are so many more. The personal challenges, your professional challenges. And to add to all that is the pressures you face from social media. So we live in the current realities, and so we have to deal with the challenges appropriately. So, excuse me for reading out my speech, but I thought this is the best way of rolling out my thoughts to you. And I've kept it very general, so that at the end of this speech, if we want to talk anything, please feel free to question me on anything, challenge my views, I'll explain my views, and I think that's what we are all here for today evening. Again, thanking you all for the introduction and being here. Respected Chairman Jairam Garu, respected Srinivas Murthy Garu, K. Ram Prasad Garu, Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Raina, Dr. Razdan, Dr. Sai Baba Garu, Pro Vice Chancellors, heads of departments, professors, faculty, students, ladies and gentlemen. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected society and lives adversely in a number of ways and made us all realize how vulnerable the planet is and all the life on it. We're increasingly seeing threats arising out of the imbalances created by climate change, caused by environmental changes and the degradation in the ecology of the planet. The international community is devising ways to arrest climate change and creating awareness of this urgency. During the first wave of the pandemic, apart from the fear of the unknown and the anxieties associated with the environment around the lockdowns, the pandemic has taken a heavy mental and emotional toll on each one of us. We have seen moving visuals of the travails and the hardships of the migrant labor as they chose to get back to the security of their own villages and towns, either by foot or by any mode of transport that they could get. We have seen the pathetic conditions of families that were affected of their livelihoods as their livelihoods were lost and savings eroded as the pandemic progressed. We have seen how the student and academic community in particular had suffered immeasurably in their progress. The second wave was worse and took a heavier toll in terms of lives, highlighting how badly prepared and apathetic we were as a nation. Not only did we underestimate the seriousness of the situation, we did not even prepare adequately to face the situation and we have suffered the consequences. However, during all this, we have also seen the dominance of the human risk their lives while fighting the pandemic without any knowledge about how long this adversity was going to last. We have also experienced the endurance of the human will as collectively we adapted to the life in our limited isolation, most of us surviving on the bare necessities. Although it is not yet completely behind us, there are lessons for all of us from the painful experience. The government and the administration also had to balance safety measures and the enablement of the economy through gradually relaxing the lockdown norms. Apart from the suffering and the isolation, I'm sure that the experience has all made us all wiser in terms of safeguarding our health, of regular exercise, of eating healthier, meditation and introspection. I went through all that, and I'm sure most of you have done that. We have nurtured qualitative and focused thoughts about the future, and in a way, we have reinvented ourselves. This reorientation has been a global phenomenon as we discovered how to adapt, adjust, and get on with life. The same goes to societies, institutions, and nations as we emerge out of this and work on the path to recovery. The whole pandemic, the unpreparedness, the responses from the governments, administration, and society, and its aftermath will constitute a wonderful case study for management students to evaluate how disasters of this global scale have been handled. Without ruling out the recurrence of the COVID-like pandemics in the future and other recurring natural disasters, we as a human race have to take stock of the planet's challenges, the factors preoccupying, precipitating rapid changes happening around us, and understand emerging threats in order to prepare for the future. However grim the future may appear sometimes, there is always a ray of hope as emerging technologies and newer discoveries promise relief and hope as we progress as a society and the human race. Just like how accelerated development of the vaccines saved us during the COVID pandemic. Contemporary management education is an important dimension to the growth of economies and business, governance and administration, and to face future challenges. The question is, how do we make it impactful in society? And what are the factors that need consideration against the backdrop of the recent pandemic? Let us, as a human race and as a nation, assess the situation as it exists before us today. Economies worldwide have suffered major disruptions. Livelihoods have been lost. Unemployment has been increased. Environment and ecological concerns need urgent redressal. Growing disparity in income levels and in wealth is the order of the day. Increasing poverty levels and related strife in societies is again taking its toll. Emerging technologies and their potential for different changes has both promises and threats before us. India's multi-layered economy, coupled with all its social diversity, amplifies these challenges and therefore calls for a greater degree of awareness and innovative ability to find solutions. It is important for us all to also have a macro picture of the nation's economy, our strengths, and our challenges. To add to the above challenges are the serious neighborhood threats that pose a challenge to the nation, including the prolonged confrontation on the eastern border with China and the sustained state-sponsored terrorism from our western neighbor Pakistan. However, I'm confident that India has the resilience and the capabilities to counter these challenges effectively. Introspecting on our inherent strengths, apart from being a resilient economy, we believe that we have a demographic advantage due to the younger cohort in our working age population. Added to that are the general strengths of this young population that is aspirational and eager to embrace change and adopt to evolving technologies that are impacting our lives. To give you a contemporary example, it is fascinating to see how young India has adapted to smartphones, their various applications, online payments, and the digital economy, irrespective of their educational levels and the digital divide. We have also seen the rise and the diversity in entrepreneurship driven by this aspirational generation, coupled with the growing demands of a rising economy. To a population that is young and adding about 120 million persons each year into the working age cohort, the consequences would be grim if we as a nation are unable to create jobs and opportunities fast enough, or if this portended demographic dividend fails to realize their aspirations. It is definitely a challenge before us. This, I feel, is the immediate national challenge, which needs to be addressed with all seriousness. While there are endless stories of reckless behavior of the affluent and entitled youth, and the shocking stories of moral depravity that has become commonplace in the news these days, there is also the urgent need to balance this by enabling this young and restless generation appropriately towards fulfilling their aspirations. It is a national responsibility. While we aspire to bettering the quality of life for everyone, let us now try to understand the various components of the Indian economy. The major ones being agriculture, manufacturing, and services. Agriculture constitutes only about 14% of the GDP, while there are 119 million cultivators and 144 million agricultural workers, according to a 2011 census. This constitutes about 24.6% of the total workforce of over 481 million. Over 58% of the rural households depend on agriculture as their principal means of livelihood. That means the majority of the population is still agro-dependent. So it is a part of the GDP and economy that we cannot wish away. It's something that needs to be done. As of 2020, India had grown 110 million tons of wheat and 122 billion tons of rice. Despite substantial subsidies and support from the government, agriculture has not emerged as a preferred preoccupation, but only out of our livelihood necessity. So there's something that we need to make it more attractive. It is ironic, however, that despite being a food producing and exporting nation, India is ranked at 101 in the Global Hunger Index. This is one significant national mismatch which definitely needs the attention of the thinking class and the policymakers. If you look at the latest UN Development Index, India is placed at 131 out of 189 countries. It is not that we haven't done well so far, but that we have a long way to catch up with the others. There's another front that as a nation we definitely need to work on. As the rural economy and livelihood is centered around agriculture, the questions before us are what exactly needs to be done to make agriculture efficient, productive, and viable, if not profitable. Should there be an optimization of resources, better water management methods, modernization of irrigation infrastructure, rationalization of subsidies, modernization of farming methods, restructuring of agricultural societies and available credit, opening agriculture to the free market depending on the yields and other effective administrative interventions depending on the crop, the season, the region, and other important seasonal factors. These are points that we as a nation have to really apply our mind to. The share of industry in the GDP has been at around 26%, which includes manufacturing, mining, and the construction industry. While the services sector has been contributing increasingly to the national GDP and is around 54%. Since attaining independence, India has invested heavily in the public sector, while the private sector industry too has grown in parallel due to the enterprise of some large business houses. With the liberalization of the economy in the 90s, the true potential of the nation has been unleashed, which gave rise to the services sector. We have witnessed the rapid rise of the economy due to the contribution of the information technology and the knowledge sectors, and their increasing value addition to the economy. Bangalore is a great example. India's reputation in the services sector and its record on the protection of intellectual property has definitely helped us gain recognition as a significant and reliable partner in the services economy. Although the small and medium enterprises have increasingly been playing a significant role, there have been several constraints that have inhibited their growth to their optimum potential. Lack of access to capital at competitive interest rates, and unplanned and unproductive government intervention, monetization, or the hasty and unprepared implementation of the GST have proven to be dampeners to this sector. And all those dependent on this sector. This might be an appropriate time again for management students to study the true situation and facts about this sector and to see what can be done to revive this sector effectively to enable them to contribute better for the national growth. Again, this is another sector where there is a lot of people who are involved in the micro, small, and medium enterprises. And I think this is again a sector that's worth fortifying. One of the bright spots, however, in the industry has been the electronics manufacturing, which has shaped well thanks to the effective government policy interventions and incentives. And this is an area that could be encouraged further. Thanks to these interventions, India today is the second largest manufacturer of mobile phones, and more measures are underway for India to also a manufacturing ecosystem, an imperative as semiconductors or chips are finding application in every device and in every sphere of life. With the engineering talent and enterprise available in the country, there is immense scope for the growth of this industry as we are seeing new companies rising to their true potential in value-added manufacturing or EMS companies. India, with all its diverse challenges, needs effective interventions to improve the standards and the quality of life for all the citizens. While nutrition, health, living conditions, poor infrastructure, and inadequate, ineffective education systems are legacy and systemic hurdles that the nation needs to overcome. The continued challenges also present the opportunity to come up with innovative solutions. Can the quality of life in our towns and cities be improved by increasing the efficiency of the utility systems, whether there could be more effective garbage management and segregation and recycling methods, whether innovative design lead to qualitative urban spaces, whether there could be ways to speed up the adaptation of green technologies in order to reduce our carbon footprint, our questions before us as a growing economy. Can we make affordable and reliable medical care available even to the remote areas of the country? Can we come up with scalable innovations that benefit humanity and the planet? Can the demographic advantage of India be shaped into an effective global resource? These are questions before us. It is believed that entrepreneurship in the 21st century should be the enabling factor to access opportunities of the changing world, with emerging technologies and disruptive innovations causing lifetime shifts and adaptation challenges. During the course of the pandemic, we have seen how the gig economy came to the rescue without disrupting our lifestyle through the delivery of food, medicine, and other necessities. Similarly, we have adapted seamlessly to online meetings to achieve our desired goals, whether it was in education, healthcare, or in business. The pandemic had exposed the plight and the pitiable conditions of the migrant workers and the extreme hardships that they had to endure in reaching their respective villages and towns to escape the uncertainty and the havoc of the unknown danger. We have also seen how the digital divide has affected the education lives of a majority of the students, primarily from schools, who come from modest homes and poorer circumstances. Are there ways for us to bridge the digital divide and to improve the learning outcomes and the knowledge of our demographic dividend? Can we provide affordable devices and reliable connectivity to remote areas and villages? Can we raise the standards of skills to adapt faster to emerging technologies for the betterment of life? How can we work towards a just society and a better world? Can we seamlessly integrate with the neighborhood economies and be a significant player again in the global growth? These are again questions that I think we all need to think collectively. All these questions lead me to conclude that it is imperative upon the nation to grow as an economy in order to face both our internal and external challenges. There is an urgent need to make the growth happen through innovation or enterprise and through more effective interventions for harnessing our agricultural, industrial, and knowledge potential. I believe that is the only effective way to face our challenges and to harness our resources for India to grow as a significant economy and a responsible power. Thank you again for your opportunity. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir, for that crystal clear speech. For bringing out the broader perspectives, it definitely was an expression of your concerns as a Minister of HRD. For us, the management faculty and students, you have given us the required alert to open our eyes, ears, minds, and hearts to the plethora of challenges that lie before us. Thank you once again, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, may we have a huge round of applause. So I require your permission to open the session for question answer. The session is open now for question and answer.
You're all management students, you should be asking questions.
Good evening, sir.
Please sit down.
I'm from the Management Institution, the Dean of Management Studies, the Ramaiah College. And I guess, is it okay, sir? You were expecting students to ask, so it's okay that I can.
You're a student too.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Student life. So, my question is, if there is an imperative need for us to channel entrepreneurship right from the time students come into our campuses. And we are seeing that there is a lot of talent, but what is the best way to, because there are incubation centers, there are venture capitalists, there are few mechanisms available right now, but for those who are still at the ideation stage, at the college level, I want suggestions on how we can really make this a part of our daily delivery so that in some way we can actually train them to, or open their eyes, or at least give them a platform to kind of come out with their entrepreneurship talent.
I can say that you're asking the wrong guy. You know, it's a good question, but you're asking the wrong guy. But, you know, I mean, we've seen enterprise evolve on its own. And I think as an institution, we have a locational advantage.
Yes.
You're, middle of a happening area. You're in proximity to institutions, industry, the finance. And after Bombay, I think Bangalore is the center where all the venture capitalists are. Now it's a question of how much is known of the entrepreneur's idea and how effectively it is put forward before all the venture capital firms. That is, I think, a model that is unique to each institution. You have to come up with that. So, enjoying the locational advantage, I think it is upon you to leverage that and to see how effectively you can put forth the ideas that are presented before you by your students. That's my limited advice without any experience in the area.
Thank you.
So good evening, sir. So I'm Imran Solapur, professor and head of the Department of Management Studies, Ramaiah Institute of Technology. I'm just looking at this pandemic from a globalization perspective. Just a few days preceding to pandemic, we could see in the media that there were some disturbing elements to the process of globalization. Brexit happened, trade war between China and United States happened, currency war happened, and India also there was a disengagement between China and India. To a greater extent, it affected trade flows, capital flows. But now pandemic has given a platform and is acting as a fusion force to the process of globalization. So how, in the broader perspective, do you look at pandemic as a facilitating force to globalization? Or in spite of this, what is happening in the disturbing elements in the globalization, do they continue?
Global dynamics is very, very fluid. Changes are happening. I think some of the happenings that have happened recently have definitely helped us. And I think it is for us to grab the opportunity. To give you an example, this trade war between the United States and China, it has certainly opened up an alternative supply chain, the scope for an alternate supply chain that can arise out of India. There was talk about industry moving away from China and into the Asian countries. I think the biggest beneficiary was Vietnam, not India. So that is surprising, but again, with all our talent, with all our resourcefulness, we're very, very well positioned to leverage that. And I think we should think on those lines. Similarly, what has happened is with Xi Jinping's, his thoughts on, a just society. I mean, whatever be his thoughts and whatever be his reasons, he had crack down on a couple of performers like Jack Ma, Tencent. We don't understand the reasons why he did it. There could be some political rivalry of, investing partners in those companies or whatever. He's cracked down. And you must all be aware that he has said that there will be no tuition schools because the burden on students was immense, starting from second grade, third grade, translating as a pressure onto the parents. So he said there will not be any tuition schools. There will be a limitation on time on social media that the children can enjoy and all that. So as a result of that, a lot of investment has come headed towards India. And that is how we've suddenly had this flurry of unicorns happening over Bangalore in India. So I think again, this is something that we can leverage. But again, how responsibly we channel it and into what areas, again, is dependent on us. Like you have rightfully observed, there are a lot of changes happening. We have to assess what is good for us, what is not good for us. I was sharing my thoughts on the business school recently, that the business school is well positioned to study some of our trade agreements, our multilateral agreements, because I think we tend to be focused only on our own country. We have to see where can we sell our skills, where can we sell our opportunity, our goods, not only our goods, our skills, we develop our manpower. I mean, in the discussions it came out how a lot of our nurses have been leaving abroad. It is good. We are a great nurses exporting nation. If it is helping another society, I think we should, encourage that. Similarly, there are other areas where, our skill sets have to be picked up and we can become a global resource. So there are opportunities and we have to be alive to these opportunities. And I think that direction can certainly, the thinking and direction can come from reputed institutions like the Ramaiah group. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pallam Raju. It's been a pleasure interacting with you for the last 2 days and very nice listening to you. But then I was just thinking about your thoughts on what lessons we can learn from the pandemic in terms of governance and also in terms of policy making. You referred rightly about the migrant crisis. But when you really think about it, we not really learn anything from that crisis. While we say it's pathetic to see those people walking, why are we not creating policies for having a database of migrant workers, which has not been thought of? I thought, with all your vast experience, what we should do more in terms of policy making and also governance. And I'm sure that there's a lot to learn in that front also.
That's why I said one of my sentences was that it will make a great case study where all we have failed, including on matters like this. I think everybody was caught off guard that there were so many migrant workers in each state, and it was unnecessary to lock it down suddenly, in my view. And there should have been a buffer of a week or two to allow these people to go home. So it is a failure. Again, as the pandemic progressed, there was pressure with livelihoods being lost and people suffering. There was pressure on government to open up. So they had to draw. You can't blame the government either. They had to draw a fine balance between ensuring safety measures and again enabling the economy to move on. So it was a challenging situation. But I think this is a great case study for us to study, understand where we failed, where we did not have standard operating procedures, and where there is a need for it, either on the medical side or on the administrative side or on the education side. I think, it's a great case study for us to, maybe we can pick up one subject, medical care or school education, and delve into it and see what can be done in situations like this.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Chandra from the Faculty of Management and Commerce, Ramaiah University of Applied Sciences. My question is regarding we've always seen that students are more interested to go abroad for their higher studies. So do you think that the national education policy that is going to be implemented with its multidisciplinary approach and the multiple entry and exit points, would it be a deterrent to this massive brain drain that we have always been seeing?
I think we cannot, stop people wanting to go abroad. There are certainly good, educational opportunities abroad. And, in countries like the United States, I think in terms of academics, what you can reach, the sky's the limit. And we have seen, so many of our relatives and friends and people we know who from modest circumstances, and they've gone to, pinnacles of academic heights. A great example being Mr. J. Reddy. When he was speaking earlier today morning, he was mentioning how he, grew up in a very poor family, a member of leading societies worldwide, an authority in his subject. So I think in terms of an academic quest, we should not have any restrictions. And if you look at what has happened also in terms of what we thought was a brain drain, all the best brains from IIT going abroad, eventually they have contributed to the growth of our economy. Every known major IT company worldwide has an operation out of India, definitely most likely Bangalore. So I think this is a cycle. I think what the national education policy tries to do is to improve the quality standards. There are various benchmarks, accreditation processes, the intention. So, and they've given, I think the biggest thing that they have given is the flexibility to autonomous institutions to set your own curriculum and set your own path. That is where I think it calls for the enterprise of the academic community to come out with innovative ideas for the students.
Good evening, sir. It was a wonderful session. I think, as rightly said, we live in a VUCA world. You emphasized on that, being the globalization very fluidic. What do you see as the connecting node between the Industry 4.0, NEP, and the way the globalization is going on?
You have to look up Google to answer that question. I think we live on in a very interdependent world, and there's no denying. Sorry. Can you hear me? Yeah. So there's no denying the fact that all these academia, industry, everything is linked. And I think the NEP's attempt has been to increase the interaction and make a better case for academia and industry to move together. And the lament today in industries now also is that most of the output that is coming out of our colleges is not industry standard. So how do we bridge that? Is again a question. And I think it is upon all of us to bridge that difference, make them as industry ready as possible, train them as entrepreneurs,
Thank you.
So good evening and congratulations on a very well laid out thoughts on this speech on making management education impactful to society. I am Srivatsa from Faculty of Management at Ramaiah University. First are a few facts. Amongst the very few countries in the world, India has got a unique advantage of making it very big in all three economic sectors: agriculture, manufacturing, services. But yesterday I picked up a few words which I have been consistently trying to practice, where the management institute or any education institute should make a connect with the immediate industry around. So we are living in a Bangalore. We are very closely associated with the India Industries Association. There is a Hosur Industries. We are in a manufacturing belt too. Apart from that, Bangalore has got unique advantages of being IT capital, entrepreneurship capital. It is also called the beer capital of India. Now, if we are talking about the current context called Atmanirbhar Bharat, where there is enough of efforts to make manufacturing, take manufacturing to the next higher, make everything in India produce in India, brand in India, sell it worldwide. Fantastic. Now, the other observation from the market in the sense that whom we are serving, students as such. If you look at the consistent data trends coming in from engineering colleges, consistent data trends coming in from the business schools, not many students are opting for manufacturing. Not many students. If you look at even in the engineering colleges, the number of mechanical engineering seats are consistently going low. Students think that computer science is the only thing for the future. If you look at management studies, whatever it is, business studies, if a student gets a job as a HR manager trainee in a manufacturing sector, that student would not like to take it up, but instead would like to opt for something like an Accenture or something like Infosys, where one can sit in an air-conditioned environment and do a peaceful work. Now, sir, with your stint as a HRD minister, and if we have to make management education impactful to the society, if we have to support this Atmanirbhar Bharat, we would like some kind of thoughts from you on this.
I think your observations have been very accurate, and Atmanirbhar is a slogan, and definitely work needs to be done towards achieving that. And you don't want to be self-reliant in everything. There is somebody else making it much more efficiently. But whatever you're doing, I think it's important to focus on that and do it right, and gain your competencies in that. Having said that, I mean, you can't, if you look at engineering streams, guys who've done mechanical and other streams that are not related to information technology are migrating into information technology because the salaries are lucrative. So, I mean, you can't stop that. You can't stop aspirations. These aspirations may not be to become a perfect engineer, but to, get wealthy quickly or have a good salary. But I think it is now imperative on us to identify the talent that is suitable for manufacturing. Manufacturing definitely is a neglected area, and it's something, why the neglect has happened, we've done it to ourselves. If you look at it historically, there was a polytechnic or a skill school for every engineering college we had. Then gradually as time progressed, engineering colleges became a great revenue stream. It became a business opportunity rather than a knowledge imparting. So we neglected our ITIs, we neglected our polytechnics, which is the ground school for strengthening our manufacturing. And what we have done is, so gradually we have surrendered manufacturing to Southeast Asia. Why did all of electronics, ironically, India had its first semiconductor fab even before Taiwan had its first semiconductor fab. We have our semiconductor fab in 1984, when Mr. Indira Gandhi was our Prime Minister. Taiwan had its first semiconductor fab in 1987, but they are the leaders. They are making most of the world's chips today. Forget a semiconductor plant, it's a very expensive process. Downstream activities, all that we have surrendered to Southeast Asia. Why I'm talking specifically about electronics as an example is today our third largest import is electronics. After petroleum and gold, the third largest import is, and I think we've seen the minister's statement how much more we're going to import. So I think there is a case for Atmanirbhar in the electronics sector. And at least, I think that is one thing I would like to give credit to, that last couple of governments have been focusing on that and trying to make an enabling environment. As far as the other sectors are concerned, we certainly have the competency. If I go to any random factory and when I talk to anybody who's usually from an ITI or a polytechnic, I sense a lot of depth in them. It is just that has not been the most efficient organization. Manufacturing hasn't been the most efficient activity for India. But we need to work on that. What are the factors to make it much more? And small and medium industry has been the backbone for our, including the defense. And that has been the most affected sector. Even in the pandemic, I think the most affected was the small and medium enterprises. The other day I was in a function in Hyderabad where the scientific advisor to the Raksha Mantri was there, and he was telling how, the entire missile program, the base is the small and medium enterprises of Bangalore and Hyderabad. The supply, and now the government is also enabling these companies to make more and more of the missiles. So there are capabilities. We just have to work on those things. I don't know if I answered your question. I rambled quite a lot.
No, largely yes, to large extent yes. Basically, it's all about trying to identify who are suitable for that particular industry and train them for that. That's what I could capture.
Yes. You're absolutely right. See, we have also school dropouts who may not be academically inclined, but who are still inclined. We haven't strengthened our skilling base.
Because if we look at title industries, they have trained all the people in the villages to start making watches. That's how it started.
Yes.
So maybe one has to look it in that particular direction.
Yeah. And the beauty of it is because they work with very small mechanical parts. Now the Tatas are also getting into the semiconductor industry. So they're training all these guys to handle that equipment. So I thought it's a beautiful migration.
Thank you, sir.
Lastly, I have one question there. You see, as far as the distance education is concerned, NMC that
Please sit down.
doesn't matter, it's a pleasure. NMC that against the distance learning, medical through distance learning. Similarly, AICT has been opposing earlier that whole of the courses cannot be done through distance learning. And I know as the HR minister, number of policies were made at that time. Now, after the shift of due to pandemic, do we think that now we must shift in the direction of encouraging the distance learning, particularly in the case of health sciences? But still, the NMC is not allowing having the MBBS or this degree through distance learning. What government?
Dr. Rasan, you are much more aware than me of what happens in the academic field, how enabling provisions are misused. I think when a bill is passed or an act is passed, there's always a good intention behind it. But it is the crooks who exploit it early and leave the really deserving people begging. So I think it's the same case with distance learning. I think, we saw a lot of hope in distance learning. But I think a lot of fake degrees were given out by opening distance learning schools all over the country. I think that has probably been the factor that had made them roll back. But like you said, there is certainly a case for it.
Well, no, the pandemic.
Yes, especially after the pandemic. But I think that the awarding bodies have to be judicious on the reputation and the credibility of the institutions to whom they're giving permissions. I think that is where, I think with your experience, you could probably set some parameters and give guidance to government to say, I think this is how you should qualify universities and institutions for giving and offering distance education. If that credibility factor is there, I'm sure government would be. That is where you have to convince.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, thank you for your very.
Please sit down, sir.
Yeah, thank you. We nearly can views on several things. It's a pleasure to. The question that I have in my mind is something very general. On something like the global horizon and the community of nations. Of course, I have had the experience of seeing the worst in our economy, right from immediately after the partition, and how the successive governments, with the spirit of building up the economy faster, and put the human resource index, especially in a fast-forward mode, to catch up on diverse fronts with the advantage that we got out of the democratic setup, and by and large, the spirit of the freedom struggle all that enabled us to look for how to face the adversity, wars, of course, the pandemics, and several education institutions that was set up post partition, and the spirit of giving education and educating the masses, and all that has really propelled the country several miles ahead. I would see that from where we were in 1960 or 1970 even to where we are now, able to become a very dominant force, and thanks to in general the population itself being spread across the nations, carry the mission that we as people are as capable, as efficient, and as committed, especially when it comes to question of delivering the goods and services, including the knowledge base. In any country that you can think that we one amongst the 7 people in the globe is not mere number, but the Indians have made their presence felt. And with this sort of a development that has taken place, forgetting the politics or the party equations behind, because the country is larger, the Indian mind is much more global than even someone misleading. I am grumbling with so much of confidence to look forward to as to where we are going to be perhaps in the next 2 to 3 decades. And you, of course, with that much of knowledge outlook, and for having even held the highest position of the human resource development itself, how do you place ourselves as a nation? And of course, in the process of we as with all the self-confidence that we are having, even for having faced the pandemic as successful as maybe we can be considered as one in the top 10 or something like that for face this pandemic and still come forward. I just want to hear your optimistic views on how you rate our human resource index and the future, especially for us, which something like that I would like to hear with my expectation that we are going to be one of the best nations in the world in the near future.
So to put it in 2 words, I'm very optimistic. And I spelled out the reasons also. We have a young population who are very adaptable, who are very resourceful, and irrespective of it, I've seen people who are working as drivers or domestic help. They don't have an education, but they're very resourceful with a smartphone. That's shocking. They don't have an education, but they're resourceful. So I think adaptability is high, and I think the spirit of enterprise, the aspirational that the generation has is going to be the propellers force. But how we channelize it, how we enable them is in our hands. As policymakers, as societies, as governments, it is how we enable these aspirations. See, we are seeing all these horror stories of heinous acts happening all over the country. Rapes, horrible rapes. We're reading about the pictures. I think that's just because these guys have nothing else to do. I think an idle mind is the devil's workshop. I think that's what it is degenerating to for most of our youth. So it's important that we enable them quickly, either through skills, to education, to opportunities. I think it is important to do that. And I think if we do that effectively, I think sky is the limit. And so I'm very, very optimistic about the future.
I have one small question, another concern. My concern is not regarding management education, but my concern is regarding managing the delivery of education to the school children through ICT mode, because it is a lot of impact on the mental health of those students. Youngsters I can understand, but what about those students, school-going students, who are not able to understand the pros and cons of using the electronic devices? So how better as a public figure, as an IT expert, how you suggest to have less impact, but education should go on.
I think the pandemic and what happened to education during the pandemic was an aberration. Not that it may not, there not be circumstances leading it to be repeated again, but it was definitely an aberration. But, and like you said, I think there was a severe strain on, families, children. It was not the best thing that happened. And I personally witnessed, how really poor families had to share one mobile phone between 2-3 children for their education and other needs. And I've seen how children were depressed because they did not have a device. And there was a very enlightening article in Times of India about the digital divide. So I think it was a very, very unfortunate situation. And I don't think that those circumstances should be.
Students have committed suicide
Yes.
for not attending the classes.
Yes.
So this is very horrible.
Yes. So I think we have to work towards rectifying all that, better connectivity, at least access to some devices, because they anticipate that learning and teaching in the future is going to be, by both these modes. So I think let's try to create an enabling environment like the Right to Education Act. Let's see, the right to, the digital devices is something I think we have to roll out next.
Any questions from the students? Yeah, very nice of you.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. This is Kiran from Management Studies. I have it can be a kind of doubt from your research paper, sir. You have mentioned then to make agriculture efficient and productive and viable if not profitable, should there be an optimization of resources, better water management methods, modernization of irrigation infrastructure, rationalization of subsidies and all? Before it is just that thought, sir, before implementing these all subsidies and putting some bringing more methods, everything modernization, new techniques, everything, whether we should take a consideration whether these facilities and subsidies all are reaching to the farmers or not, and as if we see of other foreign countries, there the farmers will be educated, a little more educated, and if you consider of our country, the farmers will be little uneducated, so that they will be not knowing about these all the facilities, whatever they are providing or they are receiving. Because of that thing, it may be there may be more suicides and suicides of farmers and everything. If these facilities were provided and they were get knowledge of these all things, there may be less chances of suicides and all things. Whether we need to give consideration of whether it is reaching to the farmers or not.
Thank you for your concerns about the farming community, which is again a nationwide concern.
Yes, sir. Because as agriculture is a backbone of our Indian economy. It was, and currently also it is a backbone of our Indian economy.
Yeah, and most of the rural households are dependent on agriculture.
Yes.
So that is the mainstay.
Yes.
And that is what determines the prosperity of agriculture, is what determines the happiness state of a village. So we have to be clear about it. And let me tell you, of course, not that farmers are not exploited. There is exploitation that happens. I think the farmer community is the most assertive community in ensuring that what is due to them is realized. So we don't have to doubt about that. But what is happening today, that the inputs, whatever he is putting into agriculture and what he is realizing from his efforts are mismatched. And to add to all the uncertainty is, the seasonal variations. Suddenly there's rains, the crop gets damaged, or there are pests. So whatever loans he has taken, that because sometimes mostly it's a private loan, and please realize a majority of the farmers are small holding farmers, 1 acre, 2 acres. So this is a lot of people that get affected. So the last resort for him is to commit suicide, because the lender is knocking on his door. So now there has to be effective intervention to ensure that for the effort that he puts in, there is a reasonable realization. And at the same time, he's also insulated from the uncertainties of, weather damage or pest damage. There has to be some mechanism, a proper, insurance facility or something. These are interventions that have to be thought through, and it cannot be a one-size-fits-all. Because we have so many crops, so many regions, and this has to be thought through. And I think there is thinking happening. There are different governments that have been making certain interventions. Like for example, in the state of Telangana, they have been giving 5,000 rupees per season. So 2 seasons, 2 farming seasons in a year to the farmer as an additional relief. So it has worked. And there's been a very, very effective insurance policy to safeguard the farmer, those who lost lives. So I think all these measures need to be really thought through as a nation to bring back a certain degree of contentment into the villages. I think that is where we have to make a beginning.
Thank you, sir.
I think there's time for one last question. So poverty index, which we are having, has come to 101, as you just stated. Where we were 94, now it is 101 of 116 countries. So what has made that when Pakistan and Bangladesh, they are better off bread health? What can be the reason?
No,
Is it only the supply chain problem?
No, I think certainly the pandemic has not helped the situation. But like I said, I think we need to do better. So it's a question of, we have everything within our, we have all the resources, we have the manpower, we have the intelligence, we have the capabilities. It's a question of how we get our act together. And, as a food producing nation, as a food exporting nation, look at the hunger index, we are ranked so badly. I think there is something that's happening that is going wrong. And if you look at our storages, we have vast storages, food is rotting in our godowns. So what is going wrong? Even in the new education policy, there's been an emphasis on nutrition, starting with the Anganwadis, which is seeking to integrate childcare along with primary education.
In case of HDI, we have not improved much, but
Yes.
here this jump is quite.
Yes. So I think we should feel proud, like countries like Bangladesh and all, and they propel themselves forward. So I guess we have to work hard.
So methodology is also in question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's that means you have to, there are certain parameters that are laid out. That means you have to challenge every assessment. Then we are fooling ourselves. I mean, let's accept it and try to better the situation, right?
Thank you very much, sir, for being kind enough to take so many questions. And thanks to the audience also for the participation. It's now time for the presidential remarks. May I request Shri Srinivasa Murthy, sir, to deliver the presidential remarks.
Honorable Chairman, Dr. M.R. Jairam, distinguished Speaker of the Day, Dr. Pallam Raju, Dr. K.K. Raina, Mr. Ram Prasad, and all the distinguished members of the audience, ladies and gentlemen. It will be presumptuous on my part to try and deliver another oration after that wonderful lecture that we have had from a very learned, very respected leader, Dr. Pallam Raju. All that I can do is to just discharge the formality of the presidential address because Mr. Ram Prasad chose to print my name on the invitation. But I could, just to do justice to that, I would share my takeaways from what Dr. Pallam Raju has, in such a masterly way, summarized our situation and our challenges, our hopes for the future. Now, there are two ways of looking at Dr. Pallam Raju's address. He has identified the structural weaknesses of our country and the structural strengths. He has said that we have agriculture with nearly 50% of the workforce dependent on agriculture. And he has also dealt with what could be done to improve the productivity in agriculture. But he has also said that we have only 25% of the GDP being contributed from industry. Remaining 54% coming from the services sector. Now, long ago, economists came up with this theory that any country which depends so heavily on agriculture can never become prosperous. 100 years ago. And still, we still believe that agriculture is the backbone of our country. It is not that agriculture has any serious problem with it. The problem is there is a limit to the productivity of agriculture in terms of per acre of land or per hectare of land. People will say that India's agriculture is of low productivity. Yes, we still have scope for improvement. But take the highest productivity of agriculture in any country and compare that to our resources. Where will it take our GDP to? It is not going to be very much. And if you have 50% or 60% of the population depending upon 14% of the produce that is coming from agriculture in GDP, obviously you have the majority of the population in poverty. That's why, if not poverty, at a low level of existence compared to the world economy and world GDPs. Now, the solution is also known to us. What is the strength of this country? Dr. Pallam Raju has right at the beginning identified. We have this famous demographic dividend. I remember some years ago, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, the then Prime Minister, delivering an address in Bangalore. Every now and then, we are adding the population of an Australia to Indian population. This was her favorite quote. And yes, that's true. At that time, we considered population to be a major problem. How can we stop this population growth? But today, not only Dr. Pallam Raju, most economists like Dr. Anindya Sen sitting here, they concede that we have the strength, we have this young population. It's our demographic dividend. And that probably is the answer to the problem. We need to have more and more people being transferred from low productivity agriculture to other sectors which can give you per worker productivity of a very high level. And that's what Dr. Raju has, yes, many industrial opportunities are there. So this is our structural challenge, structural strength. Now, how do we improve this productivity of our manpower? After transferring from, it used to be, if you go to a village and ask all the young people, and I have done this in a school, you go and ask them, how many of you would become teachers? Some 3-4 people raise their hands. How many of you would become doctors? Some 10 people. How many of you would become engineers? 25 people. How many of you would become farmers? None. No boy, no girl raises their hand. Because even they realize that the scope for further growth in that sector is very limited. And they should look to other avenues of employment. Now that's our structural challenge and structural weakness. And our strength also exists in our manpower. Now, dynamically, as Dr. Raju has referred to, there are challenges appearing now and then because of the dynamics of the changing world. Pandemic is one of them. And political developments which make people say that we will not buy from you, we only confine ourselves to our economy and things like that. These are events which come and go. But there are also opportunities coming from that. Today, the flow of monetary resources, capital into India is unbelievable. We couldn't have thought of it in 1991 when we embarked upon this new phase in our economic growth. We didn't have enough resources to pay for 1 week's imports. And that's why we had to send our gold to England and borrow some money and keep ourselves from defaulting on some of our obligations. Today, we have enough foreign reserves, foreign currency reserves to last for more than 1 year's imports. Now, this is something, this morning I was attending briefly the board meeting of a venture capital fund. I learned a new word today called FOMO. I have not heard of that before. Fear of missed opportunities or missing opportunities. And this gentleman who is running this investment company, he says, I evaluated 10 companies, 2 of them I was still evaluating, but someone else picked up that company. That means he paid the money to that company. I could have given him the money. There are so many people, hundreds of funds operating in India, which are eager to give money. They're not asking you for your money. Of course, there are people asking for our money as well. That's a different thing. But there are funds which are willing to invest. But do we have the ideas? Do we have the entrepreneurs? The answer to that must come from you. Because we have human resources, just as this hall is full, our country is full of human resources. But do we have the talent? Do we have the entrepreneurship? Do we have the qualities, managerial abilities to translate this resource into wealth? That depends again on how we train our and how our educational institutions train our manpower. That is the challenge before all of us. The meeting that we have had on Monday had this theme, achieving institutional excellence. And we have had very insightful interventions from Dr. Pallam Raju, Dr. Jain Reddy, Dr. Prabhakar, Dr. Indira Rajaraman, and many others who participated there. Now, if Ramaiah group cannot achieve, our institutions cannot achieve excellence, which government college in a Mafuzal town will be able to achieve excellence? What is it that you do not have? You have excellent infrastructure. You have competition from students to join your colleges. You have people willing to come and serve as faculty here. And you have a management which gives you total freedom to develop your institutions. So what we probably need is to evolve a roadmap. Even before that, we must develop that aspiration that every single department in our institution must achieve that level of excellence, which would be the envy of other institutions. Every institution must become known, like some of our institutions we have achieved rankings of 12 and 50 among hundreds of colleges in the entire country. So that is what our Honorable Chairman and all of us colleagues are trying to bring about by means of awareness among our colleagues. Here is a great opportunity knocking on our door. There is huge demand for talented young people, not only in this country, outside. Please let us wake up to that opportunity and develop our manpower resources, demographic dividend, a huge wealth creating source for us. And we will be we are already the fourth or fifth largest economy in the world. A day will come when we will climb higher and higher. And for that, all this hunger index 101 or human development index being at 130 something, all these things we will have to address and see that those things are all made as things of the past. And our best hope is our human resources. And the best strategy is improving the capability, the knowledge, the skills, and the values of these human resources. These are the few things that I would consider as the takeaway of this very learned analytical presentation that our senior person here, Dr. Raju, has made before us. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your insights and those encouraging words. Knowledge has no end. Let's not take this session as an ending of today's session, but as the beginning of a new line of thinking. I'm sure all of us have got more and better insights from the speeches of each of the dignitaries today. I feel we are going back home today with more value added, and I'm sure all of you agree with me. So to all of us, may I request Dr. Sholapur, Head of the Department of Management Studies, RIT, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening to all. Respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, I stand before you to propose vote of thanks to all the dignitaries and the invitees for participating in this distinguished lecture. To begin with, I place on record my deep sense of gratefulness to Dr. Pallam Raju sir for offering a very insightful, thought-provoking, impactful lecture on need for making management education impactful to society in the backdrop of pandemic. In this presentation, he opened up a number of issues, the way the pandemic has challenged our lives and the kind of the transformation that we have been able to initiate at the individual and institutional levels. And also he given us an agenda for building a resilient nation in terms of how we can strengthen the industry, the agriculture, the MSME sector, the IT sector. And also he touched upon very finer aspects of the economic development, such as just society, happy society. So on behalf of the Gokula education, I place a sense of gratefulness to Dr. Pallam Raju sir. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Similarly, I perform gratefulness to our Honorable Chairman, respected M.R. Jairam sir, for emphasizing how important it is for us to have a holistic education and the knowledge, the science, and the devotion, synergy of these three, how it could create a happy society, a happy family, a happy nation amidst the turbulent times. Sir, on behalf of all the dignitaries gathered here and on behalf of all the audience, I place on record my profound gratefulness. Similarly, I perform thanks to the president of today's function, Dr. Srinivas Murthy sir, the CEO of the Medical Sciences, who gave his reflection on the structural strength and weaknesses, and also the insights you have given to us, how to train the manpower of the country, and also how to build the great temples of learning. Thank you, sir, very much for your insightful lecture. Thank you, students and remarks. My special recognition and thanks to all the dignitaries who are there witnessing this function and participating in this function. Dr. Kuldeep Kumar Raina sir, Vice Chancellor, RUAS, our special recognition and thank you, sir. And Sri B.S. Ramprasad sir, CEO, Engineering, General Science and of Gokula Foundation, for welcoming and also setting a right context and right perspective to the deliberations. And I'm sure that the whole deliberations has gone in the way I was just envisioning that the event should go forward. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. My special thanks to Dr. Rajnan, Chief Advisor and the Chief Advisor of Quality Assurance, and my special recognition and thanks to Dr. Sai Baba sir, and my special thanks to the two Pro Vice Chancellors of RUAs, Dr. Kadambi and Dr. Anindya Singh. Our special thanks to Dr. Sri Ramchandra sir, CFO of Gokula Education Foundation. Our special thanks to and recognition to our Principal Naidu sir for all his support in making this event happen. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I will tell you my duty if I don't acknowledge Dr. Mansa madam and her team for all the wonderful coordination and making this event see the light of the day. Thank you, madam. Thank you for everything. So my thanks to all the heads of the departments, all the heads of the institutions, all the Ramaiah group of institutions, all the faculty members, students, and especially all those participants who, initiated the discussion in the QA session. And Sir Pallam Raju sir, during the question answer session, you really touched our hearts in terms of a lot of apprehensions and queries we had about how to take your agenda of development of the resilient economy, especially in the context of pandemic. So thank you all the participants in the QA sessions, and once again, my special thanks to Pallam Raju sir. Thanks to all the students and everyone gathered here, and I'm sure this is a great day for all of us. We really cherish the spirit of the address that we have gotten today, and this is going to really remind us all through our lives and make this temple of learning a great temple of learning. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I request Professor K.K. Raina sir to present a moment to Dr. Raju sir as a token of gratitude.
That will be more appropriate.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the national anthem now. Thank you, raise.